Welcome to another episode of Chaos to Clarity, where I interview leaders of some of the world's best tech companies about the strategies and principles that it takes to build a successful business. If you want to find more episodes or free resources to help you grow your business, just go to chaostoclarity.io. All right, welcome back to another episode of Chaos to Clarity. Today, we are going to talk about all things revenue and sales at one of the largest and most successful startups in San Diego. We have Gaurav Agarwal, COO of ClickUp. Great to have you here today.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. ClickUp is a darling of the San Diego tech ecosystem. I've been following your journey personally since the very beginning. In fact, I've had your co-founder and CTO Alex Yurkowski on my show before, and I just love to see sort of real tech, real SaaS companies built and based here in San Diego being so successful. I first want to congratulate you. I hear that you just crossed a big milestone, 300 million in ARR. That is enormous. So congratulations on that.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. We feel really at home at San Diego, and it's so exciting. That's where our community is. That's where a majority of our workforce is. So that's home, and it really feels like home. And the fact that we could build a global company that got to 300 million in ARR from San Diego, not from San Francisco, not from
Mhm.
Boston, not from New York, but from San Diego. We are very excited about that, and we are grateful to the city and the community for having us there.
Awesome. Well, we're grateful to have you. I don't know if all of our audience knows this, but ClickUp was actually founded in the Bay Area, I believe, and then relocated to San Diego. And so, I want to this shout out to every other San Francisco company out there that maybe is tired of the pressure cooker and wants to live a better quality of life and still be really successful. San Diego is the place to be. So, but before we dive into the business, I really want to hear your story as well. Now, you're the COO of ClickUp, but you joined as the head of growth, right? And you've got a long history as a sales and revenue executive. So I just love to kind of hear about your personal journey and how you ended at ClickUp, and then how you've stepped into the COO role.
Yeah, thanks for asking, Eric. Some people have very straightforward career paths where like you go from one position to the other and the stream is right in front of you. My path is a little bit weird in the sense
Hmm.
that I graduated as an engineer, went and worked in investment banking in Singapore and Tokyo and London. And then from there on had this itch to build something. So I did product management first, then I moved into growth. Think of growth as digital commerce, if you may. Like, how do you turbocharge a digital flywheel that can book revenue? So I did that across e-commerce, hardware, fintech, and then I was brought into ClickUp to do something similar because half of ClickUp's business is self-serve, where customers come in and they transact by themselves, and the other half is sales heavy. So I was brought in to primarily lead the self-serve part of the business. We did incredibly well. We are growing that business very, very fast, even at our scale. So things are going really well for us. And a couple of years ago, Zeb asked me to take on a bigger revenue role, bringing all revenue functions together, self-serve and sales assist both together in the same house. And I think that's been a big moment for ClickUp because what it does is it eliminates zero-sum game and zero-sum thinking.
Hmm.
Now everyone is thinking about how do we power revenue together, be it human touch led or be it digital. And that has allowed us to be, again, super efficient, get to the milestone that we just got to 300 million in ARR, and continue to grow the company from here onwards and upwards.
Oh, it's fantastic. So what does it look like? So I know that ClickUp is a product led growth model. So you've got a free tier, and then you obviously move up into more paid tiers. But what's your sort of thinking or general strategy about product led growth? Because there's a lot of founders that I speak to and work with in the community, where they think of product led growth as like, all right, it's freemium. Maybe there's a free trial or there's a free tier, but it obviously goes well beyond that. So, what are your kind of general thoughts or principles about product led growth?
Yeah, it's a very loaded question, Eric, because that term has been bastardized so much that anyone can say
Exactly.
anything product led growth, right? I mean, Would you say Facebook was product-led growth? Would you say Google was product-led growth? Like it's a fancy
Mm,
term, but the truth is like Netflix. Is Netflix product-led growth? 100%. I come from consumer. That's where I gained my muscle, right? So that's where I've had my training. You could actually argue Airbnb is product-led growth. But what does that mean?
mhm,
For this audience, the way I'll break it down is what product-led growth means is, and even if it's sales-led growth, if the product does not deliver on the promise, then there's no
mhm,
growth. Like your accounts will churn.
mhm,
So the way to look at this is product almost always is the epicenter of all growth. If product
mhm,
stops innovating, in 10 years there'll be another competitor and you will be out. So
mhm,
product, ultimately all growth needs to have product as the centerpiece. If you are powering it through self-serve PLG motions or if you're powering it through sales assist motion, both work. Now, in the modern day SaaS, what product led growth means is people are able to sign up and experience the value of the product without human touch or without sales assist, and they can transact. So, a one way to
mhm.
look at that is e-commerceification or digitization of your product experience and how the person experiences the product and transacts for the product. So, to me, that's product led growth. So if you have product led growth, you have a strong product engine and you're able to commercialize that product engine without having humans in the loop. That is product led growth. If humans are helping you drive more growth, then that's sales led growth.
Got it. Okay, interesting. So yeah, the nuance here that I'm picking up is it's about letting the customer experience the value as the primary sales driver. So not having people convinced through marketing or have a salesperson try to sell them on something. It's take it for a test drive, right?
Yeah, but how do they know? That's a great example, right? Take it for a test drive and you love the product so much that you'll end up buying the car. You don't need a salesman.
Mm-hmm.
But even in that product led growth machine, how would people hear about the car?
Mm,
Like, let's say you're selling a Ferrari and the experience is so great that you don't need a seller telling you the value of Ferrari. I love your analogy of a car because
yeah.
it's a very easy one to resonate. If you need a salesperson to sell a car, then that's great. That's sales growth. But if you don't
Mm-hmm.
need a salesperson, the customer experience the value of the car. They'll buy it. That's great. But how does the customer hear about the car? That there exists a
Mm-hmm.
car like that.
Mm.
So what happens is that's the
Referral.
misnomer.
Yeah.
Referrals, exactly. So now referrals, organic, SEO, word of mouth, those kinds of levers so become extremely important. So what that means is even in a product-led growth funnel, you do need very strong marketing to
Mm-hmm.
build that desirability, to build that word of mouth, to build that community, to get people in. It's just a very different kind of marketing. In a sales-led growth motion, you are writing some very strong thought leadership pieces. You are engaging CMOs, C-suite buyers, CIOs. That's a very tops-down marketing. But in a
Mm-hmm.
product-led growth motion, you are building community. You are getting your power
Mm,
users together. You're getting them excited. You're generating word of mouth. You are running some ads. You're building momentum. So product-led growth marketing looks a lot more like consumer marketing, if you may. Like think of
mhm,
how a consumer product company would market. That's how product led growth marketing works, but you still need marketing. You may not need sales because the customer gets to the car showroom and drives the car themselves. So you may not need sales. And then to use that analogy, when more cars are on the road, other people see it. So that drives word of mouth. Then other people want to come to the sales rooms, the sales center as well, right? So it's a loop. You end up creating these loops where more people use product, more people hear about it. But to me, all of that is great marketing. So you do need marketing in product led growth as well. It's just a different type of a marketing muscle.
mm. So we're diving right into product led growth here, well, because I'm a product guy, so I love to talk about this stuff.
Love
But
that.
um,
Yeah.
one of the questions that I get a lot from founders is how do we identify the barrier between the free and the paid tiers, right? So how do we identify a feature as something that we need to include in our free version versus something that needs to be in a paid premium tier.
I mean, I think that's one of the hardest challenges in pricing and packaging, right? That's one of the
Yeah.
hardest challenges. But now what you could do is you could break it down into two types. Let's say the feature that you're building already exists in the market. If it
Hmm.
exists in the market, then now you have an anchor that you can use to figure out, okay, what is the market already paying for this feature? And now you can
Hmm.
decide, do you want to charge for it? How much do you want to charge for it? You can, most likely what you'll end up doing is you'll end up charging for it. You might underprice your product a little bit lower because you want to undercut the market on price and deliver higher value. So it's much
Hmm.
easier when you have a frame of reference you can anchor to. But in the world
Yeah.
where you don't have a frame of reference, where you are selling something new that has never been built before, that's
Hmm.
when this gets incredibly hard. That's when now you have to think, should I be charging for it or should I not be charging for it? And there's no clean answer, but for you to talk to your customers, test and iterate.
Uh-huh.
Most likely what will end up happening is you'll have to take two sorts of lenses at it. One
Hmm.
is a cost of goods sold gross margin lens.
Hmm.
If because there's no precursor to what you can use, but you still have a cost when the customer uses the
Right.
product, right? You still have to carry the cost of goods sold. So you have to charge something. You cannot not charge anything unless you decide to give it away and then you comp it as a marketing investment. But one
Hmm.
angle is you take the cost-based pricing model and you say this will cost me $1. I want to make 80% margin, so I'm going to price it at a certain markup, and that's how you get to a price. That's one way of pricing it. The other way of
Hmm.
pricing it would be value-based pricing, where you go spend time with customers, try and understand what value are they getting from it, and then test out a few price points based on like, okay, looks like you're getting $100 of value from my product. Can I charge you $50, $30, $20, $60? And then you try and understand, and then now you have to experiment and see what is it that the customer is likely to pay for the value that you have received. So it's much
Hmm.
easier to price and make these decisions when you have an anchor point. But when you don't have an anchor point, you need to do more research. In ClickUp's context, we solved it in a very creative way where we allow everyone to experience some value from our platform for free. There's no
Hmm.
question about it. But then if you find value in it and you want to use it, we will have feature-based paywalls pop up where we are still giving you a great deal, like time tracking. You could go buy a time tracking software or you can use our time tracking feature. After a few uses, a paywall will pop up that will ask you to upgrade to the higher plan. And when you upgrade to the higher
Hmm.
plan, you still get significantly more value than what you would have received by just buying a time tracking software. So that's the angle we have taken. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's like a free forever kind of tier that gets you engaged in the product, and then you introduce new features, allow them to use or test drive individual features, and then put up the paywall. So they still get a chance to experience everything at least a little bit before deciding whether or not they want to pay for it.
And it's still much cheaper. It's significantly cheaper. So that's our value. We have always focused on like give some value for free. And if the customer needs are met with those free tiers, great for them. We don't want to overcharge you if you're not going to use the platform in a heavy way. But if you are going to use
Mhm.
the platform in a heavy way, then we have a business to run as well, right? But we want to give you more
Yeah.
value. Please upgrade. And what you'll find is you will end up you'll end up replacing so many other software pieces with ClickUp that you will end up getting a great deal. For the price of one, you will get five different tools. So that's been our
Right.
pitch.
Right. So, another big part of product led growth is obviously sort of putting the customer at the center of it. And I know that, you guys are, um, you've got the one app to rule them all, right? So there's sort of a very clear story that's out there. One is that, maybe just take a moment and tell me about, the pain that your customers are struggling with, kind of the hero's journey, right? That they struggle with and they discover ClickUp, and it makes their lives better. And then I also want to kind of hear like how you think about the customer or ingraining the customer in your development process. because that's something that comes up a lot. Human centered design, user centered design is something I'm certainly really
Yeah.
passionate about. But we're always kind of founders are always asking is like, how do I really make this company customer focused and not just give it lip service? How do I actually get the customer to be a partner along with this? So again, first maybe just tell me sort of what is the hero's journey and the pain point that you guys are really focused on, and then how do we actually get them involved?
Yeah. I think at the crux of it, what we're trying to solve for is time. So much
Hmm.
time is wasted. The problem that we call it work sprawl. It's
Hmm.
extremely hard in the modern work era. Software and technology was going to make our lives easier, and in a lot of ways it has, but it has also made it extremely complicated. Work is scattered across hundreds of different many, many apps. If you were to work on something, you need to use email, the context set somewhere else. You will talk about the work in another platform. You will track the work in another platform. So the work is scattered across so many different apps that about 30% of a knowledge worker's time goes towards just finding information and stitching context.
Hmm.
When you apply that problem across teams and how teams collaborate, that problem compounds because now every team has their own version of their own workflow and their own knowledge, and now you have intersecting priorities. What's the outcome of all of this? This sprawl has ultimately led to this massive disdain of human productivity. What you see is people are working harder, they're trying to get better at what they do, but the output is not keeping up. And executives are frustrated, leaders are frustrated that why do we have so many resources if we're not getting output? It's a lose-lose scenario for everyone, right? And that's the problem we are trying to solve. That work should feel easy and swift. And no one should ever have to do work about work. So people can focus on
Right.
their craft, not focusing on the work about work. So
Yeah,
ClickUp
yeah, yeah.
helps kill app sprawl. And the way how do our customers find us? There's always someone in a team that is thinking about how do I make our workflows better? How do we collaborate better? How do we track work
Hmm.
better? And those are the people that are constantly thinking about new ways of streamlining work. And they'll discover ClickUp. And when they discover ClickUp, it hits them that you don't fix work by adding another point solution in the mix. You fix work by creating a platform, by bringing in a platform where all your context and all your apps are in one place. And that's what we
Hmm.
see over and over again. So many of our customers begin using ClickUp in a small team, but over time go organization wide, and they end up
Right.
displacing, like one of our top customers, they ended up replacing close to 30 different tools that they were paying budget for. So for
Wow.
us, it's about how do you contextualize all your work in one place so the work about work is as minimal as it can be.
Yeah. Oh, that's phenomenal. So that I love that the work about work. I've been a executive coach and consultant for like close to 20 years now, and a lot of what I get brought in to companies to help with is efficiency and removing friction in workflows. I actually have like a Six Sigma background. I worked in defense early in my
Love
career, and
it.
so I kind of have this
Uh-huh.
right this systems thinking approach. I come into a company and I look for these areas of friction. And so one of the things that I do is, I'll go and I'll interview teams, and I'll ask them to kind of measure or assess how much time they're truly spending innovating or creating, right? And I'll even like shadow the team for a day, and we'll kind of identify like what are the activities we're doing that's truly innovating. And so if you're a software developer, for example, it's I'm writing the core piece of code that's actually going to touch a customer, or a customer is going to touch. It's not updating the ticket in Jira. It's not sitting in the sprint planning meeting. It's not writing all of my automated tests and debugging and deployment and all that. It's this very tiny little nugget of creativity. And usually, what I found is it's honestly only about 10 to 20% of the time that engineers are typically spending in a truly creative mode. And not all of it can be fixed, but that's where we usually start. That's usually the big aha moment is oh my gosh, we're spending so much time on friction, on overhead, on the work about work. And so that really that hit home for me in a big
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
That's
when we
amazing.
talk to our customers, what we help them do is we basically ask them, let's map out your workflow. Let's map out the process through which work gets done.
Hmm.
And it's a very painful process. Like if you were to ask, because the truth is most companies, most teams don't have workflows, or even if they have workflows, people don't stick to
Right.
those workflows. So when you start talking to them about it, it's a very, you feel the pain in their eyes that
Yeah.
shit, like, yeah, this is my workflow and I can see it's very bad. There's no review step, there's no process step. Of course, things are going to break. But
Right.
that's
Or
a
I got to
great journey.
copy something out of
Yeah,
this and then I put it in a spreadsheet and then I stick it over
yeah,
here and somebody created some little script that plugs this spreadsheet into that thing.
yeah. But
I
that's a
get it.
great journey for us to go on to, because what that
Hmm.
does is it really allows us for our customers to feel confident that
Hmm.
now we have better workflows because of ClickUp. And because we have better workflows, we'll be more successful. We will cut work about
Hmm.
work.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you started to get into it a little bit there about mapping workflows, but tell me about, how you view the customer as a sort of part of the design and development process. I mean, where are those touch points or how do you get feedback?
Yeah. So credit to Zeb on this. He's the one
Hmm.
who runs our product team, but he obsesses about customer feedback. Like
Hmm.
we obsess about every detail.
Hmm.
We pay attention to everything that our community is saying. We use Canny heavily. Our product
Hmm.
managers have targets that they need to engage with Canny comments, and Canny is a
Yeah, yeah.
comment board where people can give feedback. So Canny is a huge source of feedback for us. We track all our social signals across Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, LinkedIn.
Mhm.
We answer our customers real time, but we jump on calls with them. And then, of course, like as a part of our sales process, we have strong involvement from our product managers who know what are the customers buying and what is it that they need and what are the problems they're running into. So we have an obsessive culture around paying attention to what customers are saying. And then outside of these, we do like, I don't know how many, but like 10 plus user researches a week
Wow.
where where whatever we build, we take it out to customers and we get their feedback and so on. So we are obsessed with getting
Mhm.
customer feedback at every step in the journey and really trying to solve for their needs as fast as we can.
I love it. I love it. So, I've been evangelizing this focus on customer feedback for well over a decade now. And when I talk about human centered design, that is core to my philosophy. And so I've like so many times on this podcast, so many articles that I've written. I've written a book on it. It's around here somewhere called Growth by Design, which
Yeah.
is really all focused on how do we engage customers in that feedback loop. And I really want to just hammer this home for the audience that if you want to become a $300 million company like this or $300 million ARR, you're not going to get there just off of your own opinions. You're not going to get there by anecdotal evidence from some salesperson who's trying to close the deal. It's this obsession over the customer and the customer experience that creates such an engaging and sticky product that you can have this runaway growth flywheel. So I love it. That's awesome.
And you'll have to iterate. What you'll have to
Mhm,
realize is you'll have to iterate relentlessly because
mhm.
you won't get it right the first time. So it's your
Yeah,
ability to take some feedback, work on it, improve it, take some more feedback, improve on it. But it's your ability to cycle through feedback quickly and iterate
yeah.
on it. That is what decides if you will be successful or not.
So actually reminds me. So when I had Alex, the CTO, on this show again a couple years ago, we kind of talked about this because when ClickUp was coming out, I mean, it was insane how many different features and different products that you put into this tool. Where you could split up. I mean, just like you are trying to replace every product, there are 30 different products inside of ClickUp, and part of me is like kind of skeptical. It's like, how the hell did you do this? Like, does it really work? Is it just sort of like a nice little skin and underneath it's a hamster on a wheel? Like, how does this actually work?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And his answer was, it's a ton of experimentation and we're throwing stuff away all the time. So we take an idea for something, we spin up a prototype of it, we get it in front of customers. And if it doesn't work, we scrap it. Or if it is started working, we iterate on it. And so we're able to build really good solutions, not all of this sort of half-baked stuff that doesn't really work. So part of this is human-centered design. Part of this is just really great agile development principles.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. We actually think of it more as Kanban more than agile. Like
Hmm.
agile, like how do you wake up and how do you think about what's the next thing I can do? Let's go do that. So we spend a lot
Mm-hmm.
of time shipping, less time planning, and that has helped us a lot. Of course, it's chaotic as well, but the beauty of
Yeah.
that is our throughput is so high. And if you see what happens with AI now, the cost of just shipping it would be so much easier than trying to spend hours and hours of planning and consensus building. And the best of the best teams will find a way to bring people along while shipping at insane speeds.
Yeah, there's a book that I really like, called Hypergrowth, and it's really about it's called um, responsive development, but it's this sort of this
Mm,
interplay between human-centered design and agile development about this exactly what you're saying is like it's not a focus on long-term planning. It's about getting really, really close to the customer and just continually responding to their needs. And so it's exactly what you're talking about here. So yeah, this is all just a testament. And that's why I love talking with you about this. And I apologize, by the way, for diving into product when I said we were going to talk about revenue,
mm.
because this is just where my heart is. But it's like, this is what it takes to build a successful unicorn like this. It's
Yeah.
You've got these principles just baked into your DNA, that you're engaging with your customers, you're iterating quickly, you're responding quickly to the needs of the market. I mean, that's just what it takes to win.
And I think it's not just a product theme. Like you could say all of these conversations have been centered around product, but it's really more centered around how do you behave and how do you operate. And this is the same playbook we follow on the sales and marketing and the growth side of the house as well, where it's about how do you iterate really, really fast, solve for customers' needs, and then jump to the next thing and jump to the next thing. It's our speed that allows us to take on 10 different projects together and then succeed on all of them versus to like take one at a time and go slow. So our speed is our
Yeah.
secret weapon.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So yeah, I just found, so the book is called Hypergrowth by David Cancel. So, and it's actually a free book, so anyone go out and grab it. But it's a very good book on how to, again, connect product development with customer feedback really effectively. So let's get back to revenue here, because I want to, there's so much that I want to learn from you. So we talked just a little bit about sort of pricing and packaging, and we talked a little bit about just sort of the growth engine. But what other sort of principles or values do you have that are at the core of ClickUp's revenue strategy?
I think the one that I appreciate, I have a comp, our revenue machine is complicated. You have
Hmm.
self-serve, you have sales assist. A customer can jump from transacting digitally to transacting via human. Even then, with the human, you can have a service type resource that's helping the customers get more successful. You have sales. Typically, what you find is in a lot of these companies, a lot of these teams are siloed. And when they are siloed, they optimize for local outcomes and local optima versus global outcomes and global optima.
Hmm.
So one important thing in our revenue team, one important cultural nuance is everyone plays for it. It's a simple one. Everyone says it, but it's very hard to implement it. I am very proud that we've done that in ClickUp, that everyone plays for the company first, team second, and yourself third. And when you
Hmm.
truly can
Hmm.
build that culture, what that does is if anyone is playing games or if anyone is an outlier to that, they get caught pretty quickly.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
So that's so one of the tenet is speed and customer first. Like how do you respond to customer and how do you move with speed? That's one. But second, company first, customer first, company second, team third,
Hmm.
yourself fourth. That's another way to look at it. So people
Yeah.
don't do things that you find like we don't have a lot of bloat. People accrue a lot of bloat, systems bloat, process bloat, people bloat. We don't have that. Our teams are very efficient, they're very lean. And
Yeah.
we've been able to then keep our machine. That's how we build a sustainable business by bringing all our teams together and having them
Hmm.
pull in the same direction. So that's one of the
Hmm.
that's a very huge tenet of how we run revenue. The third part is interesting. we focus on incrementality of our investments.
Hmm.
What that means is versus attribution. Attribution assumes that everything that you do in the process of engaging a customer is equally important, or its importance is based on the fact that I'll give you an example. You saw a banner ad pop up. It's pretty common. Like no one, uh, you were browsing around the internet, a banner ad came, and that banner
Hmm.
ad says, I'm responsible for driving revenue. Please give me credit." But we all know that banner ads don't drive any incrementality. Banner ads are annoying. So
Hmm.
attribution would say because banner ads showed up in the pathway, we should give banner ads some credits and keep running more banner ads.
Hmm.
Incrementality would say we should try to measure the lift. We should run banner ads with half our customers or half our audience and go dark on the other half. And then see the half that did see the banner ad, did they end up buying or not? And if they
Uh-huh.
did not buy, they were not incremental. So the third thing, the third value that we look at a lot is shoot for incrementality. Just because you can offer more help to a customer doesn't mean that that help is translating into incremental ROI. So we shoot
Hmm.
for incrementality. We just don't do things for the sake of doing them. They have to be incremental to how we operate. That's a third tenet, and it's an important one because it forces us to be very ROI centric in the
Hmm.
investments that we make.
Hmm. So, okay, so this kind of gets back to like a core growth hacking, principle, which is obviously growth hacking being about making these small incremental wins through a lot of A/B testing.
Yeah.
So I've actually adopted a lot of this in product. I mean, growth hacking is a revenue strategy that we've now adopted in product development. But essentially, it's kind of what you're talking about is we have a theory or an assumption about something. Let's actually test it and see if it improves our growth or ROI, and then make a sort of a data back decision. So I guess like, how do you approach that? Do you have like, a big experimentation log, and are you running all of these different tests and
Mhm.
well, yeah, tell me about that. What does that look like?
Yeah, we have an experimentation log. We take ideas from everyone in the team, everyone in the company. Then we rank those ideas based on effort, but also impact. So we do that analysis to
Hmm.
see what can we get out quickly that can move the needle. And then we test and we learn and we iterate. And we look at the
Hmm.
data, we see what's happening. Then we try to discuss. Data doesn't tell you why something is happening, it tells you what is happening. Then you have to
Right.
go find hypothesis behind that data that, oh, this came down, but why did it come down? Let's go talk to a few users. Then we take that why
Mhm.
and then we run the next set of hypothesis. I think our teams across ClickUp run more than if I add all experiments across email, ads, our product funnel, our product experiences, our sales experiences. I think we run more than 100 plus experiments a week easily.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, across the
That's
across
amazing.
the entire customer journey. Yeah, we test heavily.
Yeah. So the thing it's interesting about this again, as somebody who's done certainly growth hacking from a product side, is every single one of these experiments requires an amount of thought. And there's a lot.
Hmm.
I mean, this is the scientific method applied to sales and product development. And so there's a lot of thought that is trying to eke out an incredibly small, like a fraction of a percent gain that is sort of cumulative over time. So 100 experiments
Yeah,
is a mind-boggling amount, to be honest. Wow.
but you need to do
So
that
let
because
yeah.
what you'll find is if you take 100 shots at the goal, your win rate is going to be 5%, 10%. And then with
Mhm.
each one of those, you get like a 10 basis point improvement, 20 basis point improvement. Now, we also have big swings.
Mhm.
We also have experiments that take longer because they are much bigger hypothesis.
Mhm.
So they're not a part of this quick experimentation machine. So we also run experiments that are big swings, but those are
Yeah.
not as heavy as much as like this velocity machine, because the fundamental premise of all things growth is the way of learning by doing versus
Mhm.
learning by thinking. And the
Yes, yes,
more
yes.
shots you take, the more small movements you make, every if you can stay in perpetual motion, you create opportunity, you
Hmm.
create Brownian motion. You will collide with something that is
Mm,
successful. If you're not in
mm,
motion and you're constantly thinking about success, you won't succeed. You have to show up enough number of times to find something
right.
that moves the needle.
You
Yeah.
gotta take the shots. Yeah, no, I love that. In fact, this was actually one of the biggest learnings that I've ever had, in implementing this is, um, it also removes a ton of internal friction because we often get stuck in decision making, debating endlessly about which way we should go, right? Should we build it this way? Should we build it that way? And once you have the system set up, it's like, let's just test it, right? So then you can sort of short circuit all of that internal debate and discussion and say it's not about, trying to come up with the perfect solution here. It's to try to come up with something that we can build and test and learn from. And then, let the data tell us, which way we need to go from there. So when I've implemented this kind of thing with my coaching clients, that's usually the first thing that shows up is like, because the gains from the growth and the revenue side is very small and kind of takes time to add up. But the gain from just getting rid of those endless discussions and just testing and trying something out is huge in a quick way. And like you
It's
talked
yeah,
about, that's the
100%.
work
That's the way
about
to look
work.
at it.
That's the work
That's
about
the work
work.
about work.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the work
Yeah.
about work. Exactly.
So I want to pivot a little bit here because you're the head of revenue, but you're also the COO of ClickUp, and operations is something that is critical for every company to succeed. And I want to hear about kind of your thoughts or principles when it comes to you know operationalizing and systematizing the business.
Yeah, I think the hard the hard part about operationalizing is if you do it too much, you stifle creativity and you increase the work about work. So
Hmm.
one thing that
Hmm.
we are still trying to figure out in ClickUp is how do you preserve the agility of a pirate ship while having the
Right.
operating discipline of a naval fleet? And that's
Mm.
that's a very hard problem because it's very easy to go in one direction and lose the other. But you
Right.
don't 300 million in ARR is a massive responsibility. You can't plunder
Yeah.
it away by running a chaotic machine, right? So for me, it comes down much like you. I went to school for industrial engineering. I love Six
Hmm.
Sigma,
Yeah.
TQM, all of those principles, which ultimately describe how do you build a strong machine. The way
Yeah.
we haven't nailed it in ClickUp. That's something that's top of mind for us. We have big milestones ahead of us, so we need to build an operating structure in the company that allows us to scale. The way we are approaching it right now, though, is it's almost when you're still figuring out that 0 to 1, which happens a lot because we're innovating a lot on product, on marketing, on growth and sales. In that 0 to 1 process, it's all about speed and like how do you move fast and how do you iterate. But once you know what works, like this is the exact process that we need to run with our customers. This is how support should be resolving tickets. Once you have proven something that works, then consistency and repeatability of that process becomes
Hmm.
significantly more important than
Hmm.
than trying to be innovate. There's no room for innovation anymore. Maybe there's some room, but you need the business to deliver that same experience repeatedly in a sustainable manner and in a consistent manner. So the way we think
Hmm.
about it is operationalize the 80% work
Hmm.
that we know we need to do and we know what to do. And in that
Yeah.
work, you don't have to think. Why would you pay the cognitive tax of thinking about the same thing
Right.
when you do that every day? And then
Hmm. Hmm.
preserve, like be as limited with structure as possible on the 20% work that's about innovation. So that's the paradigm we are falling into. Like, are you innovating or are you optimizing? If you're optimizing,
Yeah.
it's a consistent machine. But if you're innovating, then you need to be a bit chaotic by design.
I love it. That's probably the best thing. And I'm a geek about this, but like that gave me chills, right? So the think about innovating versus optimizing, because I get this question all the time. Early stage startups who say, I don't want to give up my, the thing that makes us magical, the closest net we have. Is it too early for process? And at the same time, I get big enterprises that bring me in to say, can you make us function more like a startup and more innovative and creative? It's identifying, is this work something that's truly new and innovative, or is this something that we want to have consistent, repeatable, and optimized?
Yeah.
What a great litmus test. I mean, it's simple, it's elegant. Uh, there it is. That's the answer to the question. Okay, I love
And it
that.
and it tries and balances both side of the equation, that you have to be chaotic enough so that you're constantly churning out new ideas. So you're
Hmm.
not stuck in a box. You haven't boxed yourself. So it's
Yeah,
almost like
yeah,
building a box, but with a lot of holes in it. So that allows you
right.
to like constantly expand, keep expanding, look outside what's happening and keep expanding versus think that versus live in a bubble, I guess.
Right. It's I've an analogy I've used in the past is, it's sort of like building a trail. It's like once you've figured out where you want
Mm,
to go and you figured out the way to get there, you want to build a nice, neat
love that.
trail to make it easy to traverse. But as soon as you
Yes.
figure out that that's actually not where we want to go anymore, we need to abandon that trail and go in a different direction. And so I think there's like a sunk cost fallacy that gets stuck in here as well,
Oh,
is the status quo, right? It's, well, it worked for us in the past. Well, but that's not where we're trying to go anymore. We need to be able to break that trench and go in a different direction. Uh, that's cool. That gave me a lot to
that
think about.
I love your analogy, by the way. That's a great analogy. Like
Yeah.
till the time, I think there's another way to think about it, right? Till you don't know how to get to that top of the mountain, keep taking abrupt ways. But once you figure out what it is, then you want to make it a cemented, nice
Yeah.
paved road. So
Right.
it's very easy to get on that.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, so we have a few more minutes left, and I'd like to kind of zoom out here and just talk about leadership in a general sense. Obviously, you're leading a massive team here. What are your sort of core leadership principles or things that drive your thinking and decision making as a leader?
Yeah, I think that's a loaded question in the sense that like people try to box leadership into like these are the set of traits a leader needs to do.
Hmm.
I have seen all sorts of leaders, ones that go super deep, ones that don't go deep, ones that lead through a very direct guidance, others that lead through motivation. So I think
Hmm.
everyone has their own unique style.
Hmm.
What I think though is extremely important that I've learned, like you can have your own style, it doesn't matter. What matters though is I think that some experiences that I've learned, and all styles of people need to ultimately deliver these if they want to grow in their leadership career.
Hmm.
Leaders always have to be business first, team second,
Hmm.
and themselves third. A massive mistake I see early leaders make is they think that their job is to represent their team in front of the company. That's not their job. Their job is
Hmm.
to find consensus and deliver what the company wants to do and get that done with the resources they have at their disposal and get their team to
Hmm.
see the vision. So leaders are business first. They lead with clarity. Their goal is to create a common sense of purpose so people can find meaning in that sense of purpose. So that they create, you can use a stick, you can use a carrot, doesn't matter. Use your own way, what is authentic to you. But your goal is to create clarity and drive motivation because clarity gives people a sense of purpose. When people have a sense of purpose, they feel motivated.
Yeah.
So your job is to create clarity. And the third one is the hardest one because I think this is where a lot of leaders are really not leaders. They get stuck and they are mediocre at best. Leaders raise the bar on their people. Great
Hmm.
leaders find talent and can unlock potential that people themselves never thought of. And the problem
Yeah.
is
Okay.
unlocking talent and raising the bar is incredibly hard. So that the test that I often use is I'll go to a team and I'll ask, do you love your leader or do you respect your leader? And I'm not going to ask that
Hmm.
directly, but I try to get a gauge
Hmm.
because a lot of
Hmm.
people care about being liked or being loved. That is different
Yeah.
than being respected. So when I look at leaders who succeed in ClickUp, the leaders that I work well with are the ones who create this sense of clarity for everyone, their teams, their stakeholders to come along with them on this journey. And they're constantly raising the bar. So people feel
Hmm.
that stretch, but in some way They like the stretch because we are all here to be
Right.
the best versions of ourselves. That's how you build a
Right.
$300 million company. That's how you build a $1 billion company. You don't build a $300 million company by getting complacent. And great leaders don't allow you,
Right.
they celebrate you, they give you a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose, but they don't allow you to stagnate.
There you go. That's how it is. That's how you lead to a $1 billion company. Well, Gaurav, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show today. I apologize for asking you so many loaded questions, but as an executive coach, that's what I do. I ask really difficult questions, but obviously that gives some really great, thoughtful responses. So again, thank you so much. Congratulations on your successes so far, and I wish you so much more in the future.
Thank you so much, Eric. I appreciate you reaching out and always love to chat. Thank you for having me.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you are a tech CEO or CTO and you're looking to go from chaos to clarity, for over 20 years, I've helped over 100 companies like OpenAI, Sony, Qualcomm, and Automatic develop market leading products, lead high performing teams, and raise a boatload of money. So, if you want to lead magnetically, scale smoothly, and fundraise effortlessly, go to chaos2clarity.io. I've got a ton of free resources and content to help you grow your business.